morning. I am making this video for anyone who was unable to attend the Art of Making Change lecture that I gave this past Sunday morning. I'm really hoping to make this as accessible to everyone as I can because I really do believe that this information is so important and it really can help to enhance your challenge experience and really help anyone who is struggling or is wanting to make change and have that change be not only successful in the short term but also successful in the long term. So one of the first things that you're going to want to do in the change process is to visualize success. So you really need to understand or clarify what success looks like. And so you need a very clear vision, a very clear picture of what success for you looks like. And again, success for you may look very different for success for someone else. So, the more specific you can get in this process, the better. And I'll just use an analogy here. So you may decide that you want to take a vacation, and so at first you may decide you want to go south, and then you kind of narrow that down and you decide you want to go to Florida, and then you kind of narrow that down and you decide you want to go to Jacksonville, and then you kind of narrow that down and you decide that you want a specific destination in Jacksonville. That's kind of what I'm talking about here. I mean, sometimes when we start off a health and wellness journey, and definitely a weight loss challenge, the overarching kind of vision is, oh, I want to lose weight. Okay, but what does that mean? What does success for you look like? What is your vision of success? And the more clear you can be, the more specific you can be with that vision, the better, okay? Once you have a clear vision of success, you need to tie that into your values. There is a saying out there, if it's important to you, you'll find a way. If it's not, you'll find an excuse. And that is a very, very profound truism, because the reality is that when things really aren't important to us, it's very easy for us to make an excuse for why we're not going to do X, Y, or Z. So once you have that vision, right, you really need to tie that vision into your values. And what I mean by values, there's actually some online value worksheets that you can do, and usually they're something like 100 different values, and then you kind of whittle it down to 20 and whittle it down to 10 and then whittle it down to 5. And the values are things like family and health, and it might be wealth, and it might be kindness. Whatever your values are, the whole purpose of the exercise is to help you really hone in on those things that are important to you. Once you understand what things are important to you, then you can see if your vision is consistent with your values. If those two things aren't consistent, you're really going to have a hard time following through. You might have some initial momentum, you might get so far, and then you're just going to find life gets in the way and you're not really going to be motivated to work through it. So have a clear vision, a specific clear vision, even write it down. There's a lot of evidence that writing things down is helpful. And then tie it into your values. Why is this important to me? Why am I going to continue and work at this? Why is this meaningful to me? So once you have a vision and you've tied it into your values, the next step is to think about how you're going to get there. So in my Florida analogy or my Jacksonville analogy, so we've already decided where we want to go. We have a very clear vision of where we want to go. The next step is to have some sort of strategy for how we're going to get there. Are we going to drive? Are we going to fly? What route are we going to take? And so for some of you that are participating in this fitness challenge, the Workout Like a Girl Fitness Challenge, a lot of the strategies are worked out for you, or at least you're getting some guidance. But still, you need to have some very specific goals. And when we talk about goals, we talk about SMART goals. SMART being specific, M being measurable, A being attainable, R being relevant, and T being tied or timely or tied into a time. And the reason that we talk about SMART goals is because we understand that it's one thing to have this kind of overarching vision, like I want to lose weight. And even it's okay to have a vision of, or a more specific idea, like I want to lose 10 or 15 pounds. But when we're talking about our strategies or our SMART goals, we're really talking more about not where we want to end up, but how we're going to get there. And we're creating some behavioral goals. Hopefully they're behavioral goals, because remember that weight is never the problem. Weight is the symptom. Lack of energy isn't the problem. It's a symptom. The behavior, the actions, what we're doing on a daily basis are usually the problem if we're not where we want to be. So when we're thinking about these strategies or developing these SMART goals, you want to think about behaviors that you want to implement. These are behaviors that are going to get you closer to where you want to be. And I'll give you an example of a SMART goal. So a SMART goal might be, I will eat 4 to 6 servings of vegetables every day for the next week, right? So it's very specific, it's measurable, hopefully it's attainable, it's relevant, and it's timely. And, again, having a specific goal means that at the end of the week, I can go back and I can say, did I reach that goal, right? Was I able to eat 4 to 6 servings of vegetables? And if I didn't, why didn't I reach that goal? Maybe I was unrealistic in my expectation. Maybe I wasn't eating any fruits and veggies, and to think I could just start eating 4 to 6 veggies a day was unrealistic. Maybe just something came up unexpected, but again, you now have an opportunity to kind of evaluate why you didn't reach that goal. And then you can revise that goal and you can make a new goal. The idea is that in having these strategies or these short-term SMART goals is that you're really trying to facilitate the behaviors that will lead you to where you want to go, or that will take you to where you want to go. Another thing I talk to people a lot about is having an if-then plan. An if-then plan is really plan B. So if, for example, say your SMART goal or your goal for that week is I am going to walk 30 minutes 5 days out of the week, or I'm going to work 30 minutes every day after work for the next week. Okay, so that's your goal. You're going to walk 30 minutes when you get home from work. And an if-then plan would really be a plan B. So for instance, say it was raining out and you couldn't walk outside. So your if-then plan would be, so this is my goal, but if it's raining, or if for some reason I can't get to my walk, this is what I'm going to do instead. I'm going to do a video, or I'm going to do 10 minutes of stretching, or whatever it might be. Basically what it's doing is it's planning for the inevitable, which is you're going to have goals, you're going to have strategies, right? Things that you hope to do and behaviors that you hope to carry out. And then you know what? Life is going to get in the way. Life always gets in the way. Things are going to come up. And an if-then plan is basically being realistic and understanding and acknowledging from the very beginning that things are going to come up. There's a lot of research to support that having an if-then plan is very important. People who have if-then plans are much more likely to be successful, because what you've done is you've planned for the inevitable happening, and you have a backup plan. You have a plan B. You're not just left there hanging. And when it comes to making change, sometimes it's those missed workouts, or those days where maybe we don't follow our diet that really get us off track, not just in that moment, but then completely derail us, and then we're lost, and we're really lost. So again, having an if-then plan is going to minimize getting the possibility of getting derailed. So I really encourage you guys to think about that anytime. An if-then plan also, again, might be, if I go to a party and they don't have any healthy choices, then I will have a backup. I will have some snacks in my purse, or whatever it might be. What you are doing is you are trying to prepare yourself for the bumps in the road, and that you're going to have some strategy for dealing with those bumps. Kind of going along with that is expecting failure. And we have an if-then plan because you expect failure. Now, failure, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. We will all fail. We will all hit bumps. We will all get distracted. Life will absolutely get in the way. It always does. I mean, that's just reality. And so, if you approach the process expecting failure, you're going to be much more likely to recover when it happens. So a few things, one of my favorite sayings is failure isn't the opposite of success. it really is a part of success. Anybody who's really achieved anything great has also failed along the way. That's part of the process. And if you can stay positive during those failures, that's helpful. And expecting failures is part of that process. Put those, also put those failures in perspective. One cookie, one missed workout, one bad day, one poor night of sleep is not going to make or break your goals. I mean, it's not going to necessarily permanently derail you. It's the equivalent of one wrong turn doesn't mean you're not going to make it to your destination, right? It's just one wrong turn. But if you allow that one wrong turn to lead to another and another and another and another, you may find that it's much harder to get back on track and back on the route to where you want to go. And, again, we've all come home tired and eaten that cookie, right? That cookie we said we weren't going to eat, and then we ate the second cookie, and then we ate the third cookie, and before you know it, the bag of cookies is gone, and then we're like, well, there's no more cookies, and so, I've already screwed up. I might as well eat this bag of chips now, too, because why not? I'll just get back on track tomorrow. No. Expect failure. When it happens, have an if-then plan, but also put it in perspective, right? Understand that it's just one very minor misstep, right? It's just one wrong turn. You can get back on track. Alrighty. I think it's also important to understand the limits of willpower. I read a lot about willpower, and a lot of us believe that we should have unlimited amounts of willpower, and that if somehow that our willpower runs out, or if we cave, that we're weak and that it's some sort of moral failing on our part. But what we now understand about willpower is that we all have a fixed amount of willpower, and maybe some of us have more. Like, think about the amount of willpower you have as a jar. Maybe some of us have bigger jars than others, but the reality is all of us will reach a point where our willpower is just gone. And I share this example a lot because it's relevant, and I think it kind of illustrates this point. Every Christmas at work, I work long days when I'm in the clinic, and every Christmas at work we have this huge spread for the patients, and I mean cakes and cupcakes and candies and cookies and anything you can imagine for a holiday spread, it's all there. And I'm good for like the first 8 or 9 hours. I don't even think about walking by that table. I mean, please, because I don't really want to eat any of this food. And then usually about the 10th hour, I'm starting to break down, and I'm really finding it much, much harder to resist some of those goodies. And the irony is that oftentimes I'm not even hungry. It's not like I want that food because I'm hungry. A lot of times I'm tired. I'm just kind of getting to the end of my rope. It's been a long day. I've had to do a lot of paperwork. So, again, understand that we have limited amounts of willpower, and then plan for that, right? So in my case, one of the things that I can do on those days is, one, I could make an extra effort not to go by the table, which is sometimes difficult. Two, I could maybe have some healthy snacks that I've put out on the table, so that when I walk by the table that I choose those snacks instead. Or three, if I happen to break down and grab a cookie, it's I realize it's just one cookie, and then I move on. So just be realistic about willpower, and understand that we all have limits to our willpower, and draw from your past experiences, right? What are your limits to willpower, right? What are the things that really tax you? What are the things that are really draining for you? And then when you understand that, you can be better prepared, right? It's all about being prepared. It's about being organized, about being methodical. It's about being thoughtful. It's about not leaving things up to chance. It's about taking control of your choices. That's what this really is about. Okay. I also encourage people when they're on a journey, or particularly a health journey, to broaden your definition of success. So I have another illustration or experience that I share quite a bit. And so I've been doing this kind of online challenge with a group, and so I've been trying some new things in my diet and exercise. I've been a little bit, more religious about weighing myself. And so one morning I get on the scale and I look down. I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty good. I liked what I saw. It's good. It's a good number. And and I was happy. And then the next day, 24 hours later, same scale, same bathroom, same clothing or not clothing, and I weigh myself, and I'm not kidding, it was 4 pounds heavier. And I was just, talk about just feeling punched in the gut, so to speak. I was like, wow, how did that happen? And even though I know that it's impossible to lose or gain 4 pounds of anything overnight other than maybe fluid, it still was very, very psychologically traumatic. I mean, we put so much emphasis on the scale and those numbers. And so I think that, when I'm talking about broaden your definition of success, don't get too tied into the scale. Don't give it so much power. I mean, eventually, if you're making the right choices that honor your vision and your values, eventually, I guarantee you the scale is going to work itself out. It's going to get where it needs to be, whether it's the number you think you should be at or not. Your scale is going to, and it really doesn't matter what the scale says anyway. And I talk a lot about this as well. If I were to go into your home and rig your scale so that it said that you were 10 pounds lighter than you were, I guarantee you would walk through that day 10 pounds lighter. You would feel lighter. You would look at yourself. You would be like, oh, your pants would actually fit better. I mean, there's a huge psychology behind this. So, broaden your definition of success. So what else might success look like? Well, success might be meeting your SMART goals for that week. So maybe you've met all your goals. Maybe you made all your workouts. Maybe you ate your 4 to 6 servings of fruits and veggies every day. Maybe you were successful in implementing the behaviors you set out to. And it could be things like maybe you feel better, maybe your clothes are fitting better, or maybe you have more energy or you're sleeping better. There's all different ways to measure success. So don't get caught up in body fat or weight, because all those things are sometimes helpful. The scale lies, right? The scale lied to me and it'll lie to you. It lies. It's not always, accurate. Okay. Statistically speaking, okay, and I want you guys to think about this. Statistically speaking, only about 8% of you who set a New Year's resolution are going to follow through. That means 92% of you won't. And let's take this now to the challenge. Okay, so only 8% of you are going to achieve your goals that you set out for on this challenge, statistically speaking, and 92% aren't. Okay, statistically. So the question is either how can we make that number larger than 8%? Or at the very least, how can we ensure that you are part of the 8% and not part of the 92%, right? We also know that when you look at New Year's resolutions, and this could be New Year's resolution, or this could be any new kind of endeavor or goal that you're working on, most of us, our resolve peters out in the first 2 weeks, right? So we start off, we've got all this energy, we've got all this motivation, we're going to do it. This is going to be the one time that we succeed. And then life happens and we lose that momentum, right? It gets harder, okay? It's gonna get harder. That's the point, right? So be honest with yourself. Draw from past experiences. What has caused you to fail in the past? What has presented you a challenge in the past that you were not able to overcome, right? Be prepared, be methodical, be organized. Why is this time going to be different? How is it going to be different? What are you going to do to guarantee that you are the 8% instead of the 92%? Okay, be specific, okay? Be realistic, be honest with yourself. Know where you're going to fail. Where is it most likely that you're going to take a wrong turn? All right, pace yourself, right? And that kind of ties into this. We all kind of start off with a lot of momentum. I mean, and I'm not telling you not to utilize that momentum. Momentum is a good thing. Absolutely take advantage of that momentum. But realize that level of intensity that we start off with isn't going to necessarily be the same level of intensity we're able to employ throughout the entire challenge. Now, I'm not saying that I would never say never. And there are some people who are going to just go gung-ho, and they're going to stay gung-ho. And I love those people. But most of us aren't. Most of us are gonna, we're gonna start off strong. It's kind of like running a race. If you've ever run a race, you kind of start off, you got a good pace going, and then you have to pull back, and you're gonna pull back, and that's just and that's just the reality. This isn't a sprint, right? This is a marathon. We've got to keep it going, even when we have to slow it down. So don't become discouraged if things slow down. They've got to slow down. Very few people can maintain that high level of intensity. And the reality is, right, even if you make it through the challenge with all that intensity, at some point you're going to have to slow down. And so, again, we're thinking about the long haul here. We're thinking about what happens over the long haul. The idea is to develop habits that support your goal. It's that simple, right? If you engage in habits, daily habits, that support your goals, your values, your vision, then you'll get to where you want to go, right? If you just keep driving in the right direction, you'll get there, okay? Build a strong support system, okay? So the challenge is a great support system. Work Out Like a Girl and Eastern Shore Performance Center is a incredible support structure, right? So that's what this is all about. They provide an incredible amount of support. Take advantage of that support, right? Take advantage of the camaraderie, the programming, everything that you can, because it's there to help you succeed. Also understand that sometimes the people in our lives, one, you want to make sure that the people closest to you, the people living with you, the people who have the people you see every day, you want to make sure they're on board with you, right? So if you can get their support, great. And one of the ways that you can get their support is by explaining to them how important this is to you and why it's important to you. And because you've already defined your vision and you've related it to your goals, so you can tell them exactly why it's important to you, right? So you want to make sure that the people around you understand that. Now, that being said, just because people love you and want to support you doesn't mean they'll always be supportive. And it's when you go out with friends, and what do you mean you're not going to have a glass of wine? Oh, come on, it's just one glass, and it's just a piece of pie, come on, or it's a cake, it's my birthday, you've got to have. And people aren't necessarily trying to be unsupportive, but they can be saboteurs and without even meaning to. So, again, draw from the support system that you have, and if you don't have one, find one and build one, okay? So pretty straightforward. Recommit to your goal regularly, right? So this takes us back to our vision and our values. On an ongoing basis, remind yourself of why you're doing this. Remind yourself of your vision and why it's important to you, right? This is why I need to do this. This is why I'm going to do this. This is why this is important to me. And recommit, right? And the great thing about recommitting is that you can recommit at any point in time. I read a while back in one of the many books that I've read over the years that, and I forget which book it was, and it was something to the effect of, we talk about, every day is a new day. Well, guess what? Every moment is a new moment, right? You have the ability to choose your actions, not just every day, but every moment. Think about that. So if I go home and I'm tired and my willpower's low and I grab a cookie and I take a bite of that cookie, and I've done this before, I've thrown that cookie away. Because just because I took a bite doesn't mean that I have to continue eating. Because I took a bite of that cookie and then I thought about it, like, I really don't want this cookie. I'm really just kind of tired. I'm not really even hungry. And you know what? If I am hungry, this is not what I want. This is not nourishing. I'm going to make a better choice, okay? So I took the bite and I threw it away, and then I moved on, okay? That's all you have to do, right? Is realize that any moment is an opportunity for you to recommit and make a choice that honors your values. And every day is an opportunity for you to wake up and say, this is what I'm going to do today. This is why I'm going to do it today, because it's important to me. I'm not a journaler. I tend not to write things down. That's just the way that I am. But there is a lot of evidence that people who write things down really are at an advantage. And even things as simple as, having like your goal written out and posted to your refrigerator. There's a reason people do that, and it does work. There is. So, if you're looking for little things that may increase your chance of success, that's something that's very simple, but it's something that may have a huge impact for you. So I'm going to talk a little bit now. I do an actual talk called The 4 Pillars of a Healthy Lifestyle, and in that is nutrition, exercise, sleep, and stress. So those are kind of the 4 areas that I talk to people about. And I'm not going to go into any depth in any one of these pillars, but I really wanted to discuss them or to bring them up because they are important. And so from a nutritional standpoint, I'm an equal opportunity employer. Like, I don't necessarily prescribe to any one particular dietary philosophy. However, that being said, there's a tremendous amount of research and support for whole foods. So really, whole foods should make up or are the cornerstone of healthy eating. And so whole foods are things like herbs, spices, fruits, veggies, beans, nuts, legumes, whole grains, quality fresh meat, things you would tend to buy along the perimeter of your grocery store. And there's a lot of food out there that's marketed as healthy. Some of it is pseudo healthy, and some of it really isn't very healthy at all. And I want to add here, I read a book a few years or several months ago actually, and it was called either Fat, Sugar, or Salt, Sugar, Fat, some combination of those words. And it was written by an investigative journalist, and he basically went into the food industry looked at what goes into the processed food industry, and it was really mind-boggling what these companies do to create food that is irresistible to us. And trust me, they're not worried about it being healthy. They want it cheap, high profit margin, and they wanted it to be irresistible, so you eat as much as possible, right? And they really, things as crazy as they attach people's brains to functional MRIs, and then they have them eat certain points. They're looking for what's called a bliss point, and this bliss point is where your brain's like, ooh, that felt good, let me have more. And so they have put billions and billions of dollars into research into creating these products, product packaging, and then they spend billions more even on marketing it to us. And so there is so much food out there right now that really was not designed to be healthy, nutritious, or nurturing. And really, it really is oftentimes high calorie, high fat, high sugar. And despite sometimes being labeled a health food, it really isn't. So try to stay away from processed foods, even if it's labeled healthy, right? Look at the ingredients, the less the better. If you could grow it, if you could raise it, even better, right? So if this is something you could find on the farm, and the closer it is to its original form, the better, okay? So if you can avoid eating 2 to 3 hours before going to bed, great. We now know that the food we eat at night is treated a little bit differently than the same calories we eat in the morning. It's not calorie in versus calorie out. It's the calories we eat versus the calories we absorb, and how our body, because our body treats calories differently throughout the day, and we understand that now. So the calories that we eat at night really tend to be the more fattening calories, okay? So, and there's other nuances that go along here, but if you can avoid eating 2 or 3 hours before you go to bed, great. Food prep. You can't get away from it. It really is the cornerstone of healthy eating. If you want to be successful at making better choices, prep. Food prep. Put time aside every week to shop, cook, prepare, whatever. Prep. Food prep is where it's at. It's so important. And you're going to see this with the challenge. I mean, a lot of it is built around food prep. Nutrition is so important. It is a big deal, particularly with weight loss. And when we're dealing specifically with weight loss, I would say nutrition is probably 80% of it, if not more. Okay, so food prep is where it's at. Exercise. The challenge obviously is going to provide you lots of structure, lots of opportunity to exercise your little hearts out. Lots of apps and heart rate monitors and all kind of fun things to make exercise even funner than it already is. I always tell people to try to pick an exercise that they enjoy, right? Why not? If you're going to do it, do something that you enjoy. Interestingly, I recently read a book, and it's called Healthy Habits Suck, and it's written by a psychologist, and I almost chuckled out loud when I read this, but the basic gist, she said something to the effect of, who cares if you don't like it? Do it anyway, right? So, and the whole her whole theory is that, or her whole argument is that we do things every day that we don't like. We get up and go to work when we don't want to get up and go to work, and we do it because we want the payoff. And so what she was saying is exercise is so important to our health and to our longevity that I don't care if you don't like it, do it anyway. Now, I would encourage you, if you can, to find something that you enjoy, but do it anyway. Exercise is probably the closest thing that we have to a magic pill. The health benefits to exercise are just astronomical. I can't even list them. There's so many. There's another book I read by another gentleman, and he originally wrote a book called Mini Habits, and then he took that whole framework and he applied it specifically to diet and exercise. And there was one strategy in there that I really felt to be worthwhile. And one of the things he talked about is, what is that one thing you can commit to on your worst possible day? I mean, the day you oversleep, the day that nothing goes right at work, the day that the kids, I forgot to tell you about, a parent-teacher meeting, the day where everything goes wrong, right? What is the least, or what can you do on that day? And it might be as simple as one push-up. Okay, on my worst possible day, I can only commit to one push-up, right? Everybody can do one push-up, right? So that's all, right? And the idea behind doing this is that one push-up can maybe serve as a gateway to more activity. And oftentimes it is, because sometimes it's just hard getting there. I can't tell you how many times, and I know many of you have experienced this, but I haven't felt like going to take a fitness class. I was like, I don't really feel like going, I'm tired. And then you go, and it's like, oh, that was the best class I've had in like weeks or months or whatever it might be. And oh God, it's just what I needed, and you feel rejuvenated. So sometimes just showing up and getting there is half the battle. But even if you never go beyond that one push-up or those 10 jumping jacks or whatever it might be, the idea is that it's a placeholder. Because again, this is about establishing patterns of behavior. And if you get into a pattern of behavior where exercise is important, then you will make life much easier moving forward. So that's a really great strategy. Don't underestimate the importance of recovery, okay? So, when you're working your body out hard, make sure that you give yourself some recovery time. I'm going to talk a little bit about sleep. And the reason that I want to talk to you about sleep is I think it's one of those areas that when I work with people who are struggling with weight loss, and I do work with some people who struggle, and they'll be like, well, but I don't understand. I'm exercising and I'm barely eating anything. Why am I not losing weight? And we now understand the role that sleep plays, not just in weight loss and weight maintenance, and in all different levels of cognition. We really understand, or are beginning to understand, that sleep is a major player in a lot of things. And so there are some hormones out there called leptin and ghrelin, right? And we now know that, and these are hormones that control hunger and appetite, and we now know that sleep impacts those levels of hormones. And so when we don't sleep well, we're much more likely to crave high-fat, sugary, high-calorie foods, right? Junk food. We also know that not sleeping well impacts cortisol. Cortisol can impact weight gain, particularly weight along the midsection, which is the most dangerous. Increased cortisol levels can also impact our sleep, which can then also, impact our stress levels, and which can again impact our sleep, and you kind of get this whole vicious cycle, going. So the recommendation is 7 to 9 hours. I think for many people, 9 hours is probably unrealistic. I've recently read some research that suggests that 7 hours is probably very adequate, if not ideal. So at least shoot for 7 hours a night. It is important, and I'm not just talking about with your eyes closed. I mean quality sleep a night. Make sleep a priority. There's a lot of things happening hormonally, on a hormonal level, that are impacted by sleep. Things that do control or significantly impact your ability to lose weight, or if you're gaining weight, or it can contribute to weight gain. So sleep is important. How do you improve sleep? I mean, there's lots of strategies. One, they talk about avoiding caffeine too close to bedtime. Some people will say anything even after 2 o'clock is too much. Having a set routine, room dark and quiet, no blue light. So, like the blue light from our computer screens a couple hours before bedtime, that can impact our circadian rhythms. There's also some research now that shows that insufficient sunlight during the day can also impact our sleep patterns later at night because of our whole circadian rhythm. So there's definitely, I could do a whole lecture just on sleep, but the main take home point is that it's important. So make sure that you're addressing sleep and that you're not foregoing sleep to exercise, because that may actually even be counterproductive, right? So think about that. Stress also comes into play. Stress is another big player in terms of hormones, particularly cortisol. Again, a little bit of cortisol is a good thing. Too much cortisol is really associated with chronic inflammations, associated with belly fat, is associated with weight gain, is associated with poor sleep. So, mindfulness meditation, guess what? One of the best strategies for reducing stress, exercise. All right. So you see, we come full circle back to exercise. Maybe even talking to a therapist might be worthwhile for you if stress is really an issue. I mean, stress is a natural part of life, and probably some stress is okay. Too much stress, not so much. Okay, so think about that as well. So the 4 pillars of health, again, nutrition, exercise, sleep, and stress. You want to try to make sure that you are addressing all those areas when you're talking about meeting any sort of health or wellness goal. And again, if you're struggling with losing weight, realize that and you have been eating well and exercising, it may be because of sleep and stress. Those two are much bigger players than I think we realize. Because again, in the past, we've always believed that it's a calorie in versus a calorie out. And now we're beginning to understand that that's not how it works. That how our body processes calories can change depending on hormones and also different processes and rhythms that are naturally occurring in our body. So it's really fascinating, some of the new science that's out there. So I'm going to finish off with this sentiment, and it's probably one of the most important parts of the process of change is to be able to maintain a positive mindset, okay? You are a valuable and worthy person despite the numbers on the scale, right? Or despite your fitness level. Those things are not who you are. You still have value as an individual, right? So I think it's important to remember. It's also important to remember that your body is this amazing machine with this incredible potential, right? Our bodies are just on every level are just amazing. And they are our vehicle for life, right? You only get one. This is it. You need to take care of it. You need to love it. You need to be kind to it, right? And you need to treat it the way that you would anything that you value in your life. You also want to remember that making better choices, that trying to lead a healthier life, that adopting healthier habits, exercise and diet isn't about punishment or penance. It's not, kind of, slapping you on the wrist or punishing you because you've done something wrong, right? Exercise, sleep, stress management, eating healthy. This is all about loving your body. It's about taking care of your body. It's about honoring your body, right? It's a very positive, it should be a very positive thing. Came across a meme recently that really resonated, and the gist of it is work out because you love your body, not because you hate it. And man, I was like, wow, that's so true, that's so powerful, that's my message in a meme, right? And I hope you guys, when you embark on this challenge, you're there not because you hate who you are, but because you love who you are, and because you love your body, and you understand that you and your body, this vehicle that you have with life, are deserving and deserve the best. And that really makes the choices so much easier. 2 more memes that I want to share with you because I think they're really powerful. The one has to do with self-care, because I think a lot of this falls under self-care, and I think one of the reasons that we tend to be so haphazard in our approach is because it is self-care. any other project in our life, we tend to be much more organized, vigilant, structured in our approach. But when it comes to our health, I think we almost feel selfish for doing things for ourselves. But the thing you need to remember, self-care is about giving the world the best of you instead of what's left of you. So it's when we care for ourselves and we do what is good for our bodies and ourselves that we are in a position to really just shine and give the world everything that we have to offer. So keep that in mind. The last is actually a meme that I just found, and I love this one as well. But it's basically, visualize your highest self, that best version of yourself that you can, and then show up as her or him. Just show up as that person. I mean, how, the whole, you got to fake it till you make it kind of thing. That's kind of what that reminded me of. And this idea of being is, if you want to be a fit, healthy, trim, athletic person, then show up as that person. Act that like you are that person. What choices would that person make? And are you making those choices? It doesn't matter what choices you made in the past, right? Show up as that person that you are every day. And if you have to fake it, at least initially, right? It doesn't matter, because if you show up as that person every day, before long, you will be that person because that's who you are. Those are the choices that you are making. All right. So this ended up being a little bit shorter than the lecture I gave, but I hope that you guys find this helpful. As always, you are welcome to reach out to me with questions. I really, kind of I guess one of the reasons this came up shorter is I didn't give you guys my little introduction, so I'll kind of end with the introduction. My name's Shawn. I'm a physical therapist who has been practicing for over 25 years. My undergrad degree was in nutrition. I've, I joined my first gym at 14. I started teaching group fitness at 18. I've been a certified personal trainer. I've actually taught a personal training certification course. My whole life has been dedicated to health, wellness, fitness in every way that you can imagine. More recently, I started my company, Happy, Healthy, Simply Well, and the whole idea behind Happy, Healthy, Simply Well was that working in the clinic, I oftentimes was dealing with people who were suffering from lifestyle issues, meaning they just weren't making the best choices that they could, and it was impacting their health. And the interesting thing is, it wasn't that they didn't know what to do, right? Many of them know what they need to be doing, but there was a breakdown in the doing. So this whole project, or this whole idea, came out of my frustration with not being able to help these people. And so in addition to doing talks like this, I paired up with the Queen Anne's County Library. So every month for the next, we've already done 2, but for the next 4 months, I will be doing a free lecture at the library on these types of topics. I do some paid programming. We have a lecture coming up called Time Restricted Eating, March 6th, if you're interested. I have a free online group, exercise group, where I post 10-minute videos every morning. And the whole idea behind that was, let's get people moving who doesn't have 10 minutes to exercise. So I was trying to get through the excuses and just get people moving. But this is this is what I'm hoping to add to the community, is just helping facilitate change and making health and wellness more accessible to everybody, and making it a successful experience. Because if I've learned anything over the years, sometimes, just knowing what to do isn't enough. You've got to not just do it, but you've got to do it consistently. And you can't just do it over the short term. You've got to be able to do it over the long term. So I want to thank you very much for tuning in. I hope that this was helpful, and I hope you feel comfortable reaching out to me with concerns or questions. Good luck.